of the Guru Mantra 12 times is addressing Jupiter in all the 12 signs. So it
Okay.
covers the whole zodiac.
Lovely. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, lovely. So are we ready, everyone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me share the screen. Let me know if everybody can see this.
Yes.
Yeah. One sec. Okay, so tonight we will be doing, hang on, let me see. Yeah, tonight we will be doing the 11th house, all the air houses. Um, and the among all the air houses, they are seventh house is the Maraka house. We already know that, right? We are familiar with the idea of Maraka, which is killer house. Yeah, we are familiar with that. Yes, we've been through this whole past so many sessions. So we have done very briefly the seventh house, right? So seventh house we know is a
Yeah.
Maraka. Sorry, yeah. Then the third house is basically a trick house. Trick means it's a negative house. It's sort of, it's the natural Maithuna Bhava. Maithuna is to do with the sign Gemini. And the third house is all about procreation, having a good time. Of course, it's siblings too, indeed. And it is about sibling rivalry, but it is also the Karaka for the third house is Mars. So there is a definitive combative element to the third house. But the combativeness of the third house is not just in a physical way, it's in a mental way. You know, it's all about the subconscious thoughts and all that. So it is the birthplace in a way of all our subconscious mind, you know, our conscious mind and how we think and how it affects us and how our thoughts affect us. We will find out then in the fourth house, where whether we feel happy with what we, you know, are thinking, or do we challenge our thought process or not. So the third house is a very important house, but it is also a trick house. Like I said, it's negative, you know, because the lord of the third house is going to create problems wherever it lands. Okay, just take it for granted, it will create a problem. Similarly, the lord of the 11th house, the lord of the 11th house is fundamentally, it's called, its 11th house is a harabhava. We went through that, right? It's tano tana danda hara. So that literally translates to, because it is a sixth from the sixth house, that means that you will be beaten in the 11th house, you know. And all this romantic vision of like gains and beautiful things you want to acquire and set up big businesses and all that, you know, but end of the day all that will be gone, lost. The only thing that will remain of the 11th house is the house of knowledge, because this is a guru, this is where the guru is coming from, and it rules the left ear, and it's basically about listening to the guru's upadesha. Upadesha is his sermon, his advice, his discourse. So that's why if you take that into account of the 11th house, then it stops being a malefic, really, and then you can avail the benefits of 11th house. But rest assured, planets here or the lord of the 11th will always create a problem. There is no doubt about that, because it's a very karmic house, and it is a very important house for astrologers, because all the astrology, everything is ruled by, you know, the 11th house. And if you want to know if you are going to be a good astrologer, or if you can make you know, a living out of astrology or Jyotish, then this is the key house to be seen, you know. So this is becomes a very, very important house, and it is ultimately our final, you know, it is the gains that we get, you know, the money that is earned, the finances that are created after our karma is done, which is the 10th house, because it is the second house from the 10th house. So that's why the 11th house is of crucial importance, so never underestimate it. But often we will find that the 11th lord, wherever it goes, is going to create a lot of problems for us. Okay, is everybody clear on this?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so now here we see
Sonal, what
yes,
about the Marika of the 11th Mars? Do you look to that to signify the 11th house as well? The Marika, Mars, the condition of Mars.
Mars has nothing to do with the 11th house. The,
Oh,
the
sorry, it's a Karaka of the third. Sorry,
yes,
so
yes,
you
of
looked for the
course.
Karaka of the house to as well as the ruler, yeah?
Yes, we look to the Karaka as well as the ruler indeed. So for the 11th house, even though it will give you a lot of troubles, it's the Hara Bhava. Hara is where you're beaten and smashed and hit, and it's like basically in pulp you're beaten up. So there's no romantic vision about the don't have a romantic vision like, wow, it's going to be, do really good and it's going to give a lot of things and all that. Well, up till a point. And that's why, because it is the second house from the 10th house, it's a result of all our karmas, whether we've done good karmas or beneficial to humanity or beneficial to the community at large, or have we employed the right kind of knowledge to do our karmas. That's why it's the second house, and hence the karaka for the second house, from the 10th it is the second house, so the karaka is Jupiter, and hence the karaka for the 11th house is Jupiter. So I would say that 11th house, if you have a Jupiter in the 11th, it is a fantastic placement. If you have Ketu in the 11th house, it is a superb placement, because Ketu is the moksha karaka. Ketu wants to get you to detach from everything, right? And if you are able to detach, because it's a very spiritual planet, Ketu is a very spiritual point in your chart. But if you keep getting yourself attached to all the wealth created and all the gains that you can have, then you're going to run into very quickly into trouble. But if you're able to take on board the spiritual and the higher element of the 11th house, then Ketu will give you great benefits, and as well as Jupiter, So, and don't forget, in the natural scheme of things, this is the house of Aquarius. So the ruler is Rahu and the other ruler is Saturn. So this is a very strong house. If you have Saturn here, you are going to get beaten unless and until you do your actions are absolutely pure and perfect and according to the knowledge, and it's you're not like cheating and being kind of overly overly greedy about things and all that. If you steer clear of all that, then 11th house, a Saturn in the 11th house will be absolutely superb for you. It will give you longevity. Saturn in the 11th house, because it has a graha drishti, Saturn, if it is in the 11th house, it has a graha drishti on the 8th house. 8th house is the karaka for, it's the house for longevity. So hence Saturn in the 11th house is a fantastic placement, but it's difficult to keep up because Saturn will demand a lot of discipline, a lot of being proper, and I'm not just saying like proper as in like manners and things like that, but proper as in like proper, conduct yourself properly. So that way Saturn in the 11th is really a good blessing to have.
May I ask you something, Sonal?
Yeah.
Because Saturn in the 11th also has an aspect on the Lagna.
Yes, of
So
course.
it will give, also some characteristic. Maybe.
Yes, and because it has an aspect on the Lagna, that means you will have some kind of a sorrow in your life, at least once in your life. You will go through some kind of a sorrowful experience because Saturn is all about disease and sorrow and all that. but it's also you're burning the karma with it, you know. Do you
Mm.
understand? With Saturn being there in the 11th house, and because you're going through a very, kind of like a terrible, painful experiences, then you will burn off a lot of the negative karma. And so, in a way, it's a blessing to have the Saturn aspect your Lagna. And even more so, let's say you have Saturn in the 11th and moon either in the 6th, 8th, or the 12th, then that's a great yoga. It's called the Brahmana Yoga. It's a
Mm.
fantastic placement because these people will have such strong focus of mind. You know, they will be very dedicated to a cause or knowledge, or, it's a beautiful placement, very strong, very powerful people are born with that kind of placement. So if anyone has got that, do let me know. you know
Yeah, my partner.
does he? Does he?
Yeah,
Is he very single-minded in his focus and everything?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that's called
Very, very.
Brahmana Yoga. Yeah. They have a very strong vision of what they want to achieve. And but this lifetime they have to do that. That is, it comes with the territory. They have to be able to be completely sacrifice themselves to some kind of thing. You can't say, oh, I wish he would be different. You can't. You have to understand that it comes with the territory. If you have Saturn in the 11th house, it's aspecting your Lagna, you will have some kind of sorrow. And if the moon is in the 6th, 8th, or 12th, it's a super placement. That means the Karaka is very strong, so very, very focused and dedicated. That's these people leave behind something really concrete. Yes, I can't see the chat, but if somebody can just unmute themselves and ask me what's going on, because I keep things flashing. Hi. No. Okay.
Oh, so Razi said, I have Saturn in 11th and Moon in 8th. All you were saying is true.
Oh, well, can you tell me who this is? Hi.
Oh, hi, I'm Elizabeth.
Oh, okay. Hi.
Hi.
Were you there last time?
I was, but I think I had my camera off.
Okay, lovely. Nice to meet you, Elizabeth. Okay, so you have
No,
yeah.
that's not me. I was just reading the chat to you from Razi W.
From, sorry, what?
From Razi W wrote in the chat, and I read you the chat like you asked.
Okay. So who's got that? Sorry.
Razi W.
Okay.
Razi.
Okay. Oh yeah, Razi W. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Superb. Yeah, that's very, very positive. Like I said, it's a very good placement to have. um anyway, so let's carry on. So if 11th lord is in the first house, the native will be genuine in disposition, rich, happy, even sighted, be a poet, be eloquent in speech, be always endowed with gains. So this is a very good placement to have. 11th lord in the first, that is in Lagna. Of course it's about speech, because it is the third house from the 11th house, so the speech will be very strong, and will always be endowed with gains. So that's this is kind of like, Parashara, this, it's very clear what Parashara has to say. Then if 11th lord is in the second house, the native will be endowed with all kinds of wealth and all kinds of accomplishments, charitable, religious, and always happy. Yoga, this is a specific particular yoga. It's called the, sorry, I've made a mistake here. I've said Kala Vriksha Yoga. It's Kalpa Vriksha, Kalapa, Kalpa Vriksha. This is like the huge, wish fulfilling tree. Sorry, there's a typo error here. So it's Kalpa Vriksha means wish fulfilling. So this will give you all the wishes that you want to be fulfilled, But there is also a caveat to it. The second, any association of the second lord, 11th lord, and the fourth lord. So these three lords have to have some kind of combination or a yoga coming through. And that's when it will really work. Okay. So that's when it really comes into play, because it is an absolutely, so you may not believe this, but if you do have this yoga, and for example, if the lord of, let's say, either the 10th or the ninth house gets involved, then it's a guaranteed that whatever you would like to achieve, whatever you really want to manifest, you can, so this is a very specific combination. And we will see, we'll do some chart examples, and you will see why this is called the kalpa vriksha. Any association of the 11th and the second and the fourth is a very, very powerful yoga, extremely powerful. Then if the 11th lord is in the third house, the native will be skillful in all jobs, wealthy, endowed with fraternal bliss, and may sometimes incur gout pains. Right. So that's very specific, gout pains. Now, if the 11th is in the third, again, that means it's gone. Anything with the third house means we haven't done the concept of Argala. Argala is a very third house and 11th house have a specific, it's like if you have equal number of planets in the third house and equal number of planets in the 11th house, it forms a very specific yoga again on the ascendant, on the lagna. It's called the Argala. And it's like Bandhan Argala. That means you're kind of like got tied up in a bondage kind of situation here. And that's not necessarily negative, but it's like a bondage where people, you have to keep working, and in order to make some profit. But again, it's kind of like a third house thing where you have to really fight for your things, fight for your ideas and things like that in order to go ahead. So this is, and nothing will come without fighting, because the third house, anything in the third house, planets going in the third house, invariably you will have to grab, fight for what is yours. That is a given. So that is why the third house, I said, is a trick house. It's a negative house. Is the house of Gemini. You see the trouble with the third house. Gemini is, all they want is it's a house of like to procreate, have a good time, be fun, and and games. But that's not, it doesn't work like that. It's that's why the third house gets a really bad reputation in Vedic. So it's not, and third house, because the karaka is Mars, it's, there's a sense of combativeness to the third house. So planets being here, you will have to fight for it. And so if you have equal number of planets here, then it creates a little bit of stress and problems. Now let's go, if the 11th lord is in the fourth house, the native will gain from maternal relatives, will undertake visits to shrines, and will possess happiness of house and lands. This is beautiful. Like I said, any association with the second, 11th, and the fourth house is an absolutely fantastic combination. And especially the fourth house, because you see, the fourth house is also the house of reality, is also the house of property, and property and lands and things and properties and houses and reality and all of that. It rules the fourth house. So any association of the 11th lord in the fourth, or the fourth in the 11th, there will be a very positive connotation, and they will may undertake visits to shrines, and shrines can mean like temples, or like journeys regarding like old architectural ruins, which are sort of sacred in nature. So that's a very positive thing again. Then if the 11th lord is in the fifth, the native will be happy, educated, and virtuous. He will be religious and happy. Again, there is, because it has a drishti. That means it will have all planets in the fifth, all planets opposite to each other, seven from there, aspect each other. So if the 11th Lord is in the fifth, so that's very positive, that means it is sort of aspecting, it's in its opposite sign, and wherever it is. So that's really positive, you know, and that's why 11th Lord in the fifth is a very, very nice placement to have. Especially if it is in its own sign or something like that, that's fantastic, because anything going in the fifth house, it kind of takes away the problems over time, through either practices, mantra practices. Listen to the video of the fifth house, which I have done, because the fifth house is not something that you're going to be neutral about. Fifth house is where your passion, where your heart is, it's the house of Leo, the natural house of Leo. So the planets here are going to be like supercharged. It's like being a Leo under the sun, like absolute, leonine quality it will have. So you're not going to be neutral about the fifth house. So if a planet lands up here, it's very, very positive. If the 11th Lord is in the sixth, the native will be afflicted by diseases, be cruel, living in foreign places, and troubled by enemies. Um, Maybe because from the 11th, the sixth house is the eighth. Again, we come to the concept of bhavat bhavam, where the sixth house is, eighth from the 11th house. So hence, it can create problems. And why living in foreign places? Often, foreign things and foreign immigration and all that, we see it from the eighth house is also one of the places where we can see, living in foreign, countries and things like that. If the 11th Lord is in the seventh house, the native will always gain through wives, relatives, be liberal, virtuous, sensuous, and will remain at the command of his spouse. That is a beautiful placement again. It's in a trine. So it's almost like the spouse is like a guru in effect, who will be supportive and who will be protective towards you. And hence, that's a very positive thing to have 11th Lord in the seventh. Let's see some examples. I'll come to the examples. If the 11th Lord is in the eighth house, he will incur reversals in his undertaking, but will live long, while his wife will predecease him. That means she will pass away before him. Well, it is the 10th house. So, and you will live long, because any association of the 8th and the 11th house, let's say you have an 8th Lord in the 11th, that also will, you will have a proclivity to be able to live for much longer, for a lot longer, for long life. So, but of course, you have to see other indications as well. If the 11th Lord is in the ninth, the native will be fortunate, skillful, truthful, honored by the king, and be affluent, because that is the 11th from the 11th, which is very, very positive. 11 from the 11th house is fantastic a placement, and more so for the 11th house. Then we come the 11th house. In the 10th house, the native will be honored by the king, be virtuous, attached to his religion, intelligent, truthful, and will conquer his indriyas. Indriyas is all his senses he will overcome. Why that? Why? What does that mean by conquer his indriyas? That means there will be a sense of detachment. There'll be a sense of non-attachment to his, like he's not like a pleasure seeker, constantly looking for the next best thing, the next latest thing to satisfy him, the next film, the next, iPhone or whatever. So that's why he's more interested in doing the karma that he has to do and exiting the planet. And hence, the 11th Lord in the 10th house is a fantastic placement. And that's why, because it is the 10th house, is the 12th house, the house of loss, where you have to just give up, you give in, you give up your desires about things. So you will give up, and hence you will be able to conquer your indriyas, that is, conquer your senses. You're not constantly pleasure seeking and this and that. So that's a very important twist to the 11th Lord in the 10th. If the 11th Lord is in the 11th, the native will gain on all undertakings, while his learning and happiness will go on increase day by day. That's superb. 11th Lord in the 11th is absolutely fantastic, because it is aspecting the 5th house by a 7th house drishti, so that's absolutely fabulous. And if the 11th Lord is in the 12th house, the native will always depend on good deeds, be sensuous, will have many wives, will be friendly towards uncouth barbarians, those kind of people. Well, why so? Because the 12th house, we kind of tend to take on board everybody, because it is like the ultimate, the melting pot, so to speak, or the bin of the zodiac, really, so to speak. So, in a way, the 11th Lord in the 12th is basically, you're just don't care, but you are more interested in giving up all the negative karma. So, in a way, you land up doing some good deeds and things like that. And the 12th house is also the house of pleasures, you see. So, the bed pleasure. So often that's why possibly this means many wives. Yeah. Let's see an example. Are we
Sonal,
Yes.
Sonal, may I ask you something? I mean, it looks like that the 11th Lord, despite being a tricolored, he behaves quite nicely everywhere except in the 6th and the 8th. But, the 6th and the 3rd, but they are also trika houses. And, you said that 11 Lord in any of the other trika, any trika Lord in each other houses is not so bad.
Yeah.
So, but Parashara say that in the 6th and the 8th house is bad. Actually, it's the only 2 houses where it's bad.
Yeah.
Because it gives a really good result everywhere, except in these 2 houses. But in these 2 houses, if it's placed in these 2 houses, it shouldn't be so bad, according to the other rule. So how can you interpret this?
Because end of the day, the karaka for the 11th house is Jupiter. So when it goes in the 6th house, the 6th house is a very challenging house, because it is a house of disease and all that. So, so from the 11th, the 6th house, it's anyway a problematic house. It's your shadripu, it's all your problems, it's all your, negative habits, that you have you have to overcome. And so when it goes, because it is the 8th from the 11th house, get an added added misfortune of having, like, from the Lord, it is from the house, it is in the 8th, you see.
No, logically it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just that the Viparita, no, what is the Viparita Raja Yoga? So doesn't apply.
Not for this. It doesn't apply to this. It only applies to the 6th, 8th, and 12th, because those are very specific.
So it's not 11.
No, those are very specific yogas, 6th, 8th, and 12th, you see.
But could also mean that somebody may gains through disease. Could also be possible. Could be also a position for doctors.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you're a doctor or a therapist, it's a fantastic placement.
Okay.
And the same logic goes with, like, if you are a doctor or a therapist, if your 10th Lord is in the 6th, then you may think like, oh my God, 10th Lord going to the 6th is not a very nice placement. But actually, if you're a doctor or a lawyer, or where you have to fight and do conflict resolution and battle through people's problems and all that, it is a superb placement. It will
Yeah.
give you a lot of Raj Yoga because of that, you know.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's is the same logic, but the logic for the 11th and the 6th, well, there will still be some element of problems associated with it, because
Okay.
if the 10th Lord is in the 6th, it's in a like a it's in the ninth, it's the 5th, you know, it's that
Mm,
9-5, which is very positive. But you
mm,
see, from the 6th house, the 11th Lord then comes to the 6th house when you go. So there's a problem of the 6-8, problem there, from the 11th house, the 6th house is 8. So that's
yeah.
instantly a problem, you see,
Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
because
Sona.
you have to also see it that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, if the 11th Lord is in the 10th house, the native will be honored by the king, be virtuous, attached to his religion, intelligent, truthful, and will subdue his senses. Wow. Okay. And if the 11th Lord is in the 11th, the native will gain in all his undertakings, while his learning and happiness will be on increase day by day. So we see David Bowie's chart here. Can everybody see here David Bowie's chart? Because you see, both of them have got the 11th Lord, Virginia Woolf as well as David Bowie. They
Mm,
both of them have the 11th Lord in the 12th house. David Bowie has got Mars, which is the malefic, in the 12th house, gone in the 12th. And she also, Virginia Woolf, also has Jupiter with the malefic going in the 12th house with the debilitated Saturn. You see, and the moon. You see, that's a problem. And okay, guys, now this is a really important conclusion, right? Now, David Bowie, of course, he's got planets there, he's got Venus there, he's Ketu there. What did I tell you about Ketu in the 11th house? Ketu in the 11th house is a
house.
brilliant, absolutely fantastic placement. Did I say
Mm,
that or not? Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's in its own Swakshetra, it's in its own home in Scorpio. So that's even absolutely superb. Okay. Now, the trouble is with that Venus, okay, it will give some blood diseases and things like that. But the main thing is that he also, the Mars, the other Lord, has gone in the 12th. So at least the one Lord, basically that Ketu, has given him a lot of fortune. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. You don't have to be attached. The key thing about the 11th house is it's asking you, do not attach yourself to things, and he was more dedicated to his creativity. Of course he had, because of that he earned a lot. But I would be very, you know I would say that his primary motivation was not to make a profit through his music. You see, there is a distinct difference between the two. If your main motivation is to make profit, then that Ketu in the 11th house will be quite detrimental. But if your main motivation is to actually, do something creative, because it's Rahu in the 5th, which is like a very creative placement, then you're going to do very, very well. You see, and because it's in its own sign, the native will gain in all his undertakings, while his learning and happiness will be on the increase day by day. So remember what I said, the 11th is also, it's listening to the guru. I don't know if David Bowie had a guru, but basically the 11th house Lord, it'll bring you that guru. And if you keep listening to the guru Upadesha, then that will be very positive. Now, the take in contrast Virginia Woolf, who drowned herself, who went into a depression. Everybody knows about Virginia Woolf. Can somebody tell me what they think?
Writer, wasn't she?
Yes,
Mhm.
a very good writer, absolutely brilliant. But I think her sister died, her mother died, and then eventually she went into a like a big time depression because of that. And she did eventually get married, and then I think her father died just before or after, and then she had another bout of depression, you see. And so you can clearly see how the 11th lord in the 12th house with a malefic is really a difficult placement, you see. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, we can. Can I ask a question about
Yes.
Jupiter?
Yes.
Actually, I have heard one of the gurus say that Jupiter can give very bad results in some placements and it can signify cancer in some houses. Does it really apply? Is it true? Is it so?
I don't know about cancer. That we have to see other, there are many rules for calculating how you cancer and things like that, or that kind of thing. But what Jupiter will do in the 6th, 8th, and 12th, Jupiter is not welcome at all, at
Mhm.
all. So yes, in a way, it's a very negative placement. And if you contrast that with David Bowie, his Jupiter is in the 10th, you see.
Mhm.
So that's a very positive placement, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
So you see,
Sonal,
yeah,
David Bowie had a half brother who was insane, who was incarcerated in a mental asylum, and his brother was an influence for a lot of his songs. So you've got the ruler of the third in the 10th, and you've got Mars depositing that Cato in the 12th.
yeah,
So, and Bowie sometimes said he probably would have gone mad if he wasn't able to sing, and
yeah,
he used all these alter egos like Aladdin Slaying, Ziggy Stardust, the Thin White. He used all these characters as a channel for his music,
yeah.
which is like very 12th house. It's very 12th house.
Yeah, it is very 12th house, and it's very good use of creativity. So you
Yeah.
see, this is, but there's also another thing, guys. If you notice the nodes, you know, David Bowie's nodes are exalted. Ketu is in its Swakshetra, its own home, in Scorpio, and Rahu is in Taurus, exalted. While here, for Virginia Woolf, Rahu is debilitated, and Keso is, Ketu is okay. Ketu is not debilitated, but Rahu definitely is, and it's across this Lagna in 7th house. So that in itself is a problem, you see. So that could also be because Ketu rules her 11th house, and the other ruler, Jupiter, has gone in the 12th house. So, in spite of having these issues of, 11th Lord well placed, one of the 11th Lords well placed in the Kendra, but the other Lord is with the moon, you see, and moon and Jupiter in the 12th is a problem. Moon in the moon, and it's with Saturn, so it can create a lot of depression too, you see. But even though, in terms of work, she was a brilliant writer. Hi, guys, can you please mute yourselves? Yeah. Okay. Now, if the 11th Lord is in the 12th, the native will always depend on good deeds, be sensuous, will have many. We went through this. So, yeah. So, I mean, she lived in sort of woods and, that kind of thing, like forests and, like countryside. She liked, but even that couldn't manage. She couldn't save herself. She drowned herself, so that's how she committed suicide. Rather sad though. Brilliant writer. Um, anyway, let's see the third house now. Okay, the third house is basically, if the third lord goes in the first, he will be self-made wealth. Um, One sec. Yeah, be disposed to worship, be valorous and be intelligent, although devoid of learning. So basically, the third lord in Lagna is a very positive thing, you know. It's called the Dhimanta Yoga. This is a wrong chart here. I think I've put mixed up the little bit here, but that doesn't, just ignore this for the moment. We'll come to the third house, third lord in the fourth. But anyway, the third lord in the Lagna is a fantastic placement because it does give you a lot of intelligence. As I said, it is a Dhimanta Yoga, high levels of intelligence. Um, if the third lord is in the second house, the native will be corpulent, lack of courage, will not make much efforts, be not happy, will have an eye on others' wives and others' wealth. Right. Okay. Now that is a big one. Okay. Parashara is quite specific that if the third lord is in the second, native will be corpulent, lack of courage, will not make much efforts. Maybe maybe because the third lord is where our courage is, where we feel brave, where we are tested for our, you know, guts and how authentic we are, and do we stand by our word, because after all it will behave like Mars, the third lord. And so if it is gone in the 12th from itself, from that house which is the second house, the native will be corpulent. There's therefore there'll be a lack of courage, laziness, and will not make much efforts, will be not happy, and have eye on others wives and wealth. Well, I think I would strongly encourage you to research these more. These dictums are not to be taken lightly because they do manifest, as I said. If the third lord is in the third, the native will be endowed with happiness through co-born, will have wealth and sons, be cheerful and extremely happy. So that's a very, any third lord in the third or any lord in its own house is a very positive placement. Okay. And if the third lord is in the fourth, the native will be happy, wealthy, and intelligent, but will acquire a wicked spouse. Now, here, there's Prince Charles here. Now, I am not going to say, it's like rather contentious to say, do you think she has he has a wicked spouse? I don't know. You know, she's quite forceful, I would say. You know, Camilla is quite forceful. And Lady Diana, his first wife, also was, quite independent, and she did go through turbulent times. But can we say a wicked spouse? Maybe there may be streaks of that in their behavior, perhaps. Yes,
So,
indeed. Yeah,
Sonal,
yeah.
because Diana always felt there were three people in the marriage.
Yes,
Like
yes, yes.
Camilla could have stepped back. Maybe you could accuse Camilla of being a bit selfish, because Diana always felt like she was like pushed out by Camilla a bit, you know.
Absolutely. Thank you, James. Yes, absolutely. So maybe that is a problem, but maybe that reflects more about you, more about Prince Charles than anyone. I don't know. Now I'm not siding with anyone here because, I'm just trying to match the Parashara's dictums to the to the charts. So yeah, so if the third lord is in the fourth, the native will be happy, wicked. Well, there we go, we have an instance of that. Now let's carry on further. Oops. If the third lord is in the sixth, the native will be inimical to co-born, be affluent, will not be well disposed to his maternal uncle, and be dear to his maternal aunt. So the third lord in the sixth is actually an okay placement. But the trouble is that I think there is always going to be problems with, one's co-borns. I think there may be problems because because both of them are ruled by Mars. You see, the Karaka is Mars, so there is that element of combativeness will come in. If the third lord is in the seventh, the native will be interested in serving the king, will not be happy during boyhood, but will end his life. But and the end of his life, he will be happy. Again, we need to figure out about this one. I don't know, but it's a good dictum I would strongly encourage you to take some of these and then look for charts. If the third lord is in the eighth, the native will be a thief, will derive his livelihood serving others, and will die at the gates of royal place. This is a very dire situation here. Third lord in the eighth. Again, from the third law, from the eighth, the third house is the eighth. So perhaps that is what it is. Any placement from the lord to the house, if it is sixth or eighth, it's a problematic. If the third lord is in the ninth, the native will lack paternal bliss, will make fortunes through wife, and will enjoy progenic and other pleasures. So again, this is kind of very, you can read about all this. It's quite nice to just go through the list somewhere. Then, if the third lord is in the 12th, the native will spend on evil deeds, will have a wicked father, and will be fortunate through a female. Ooh, right. Okay. So let's see some examples. Again, we have Prince Charles here, but nothing here. Prince Charles, the other lord of his third house, is in the 10th. And as we said here, if the, where is the 10th house gone? Yeah, here. If the third lord is in the 10th house, the native will have all kinds of happiness and self-made wealth and be interested in nurturing wicked females. Oh my God. Can somebody, James, can you think about this? If the 10th, if the third lord is in the 10th or third lord is in the fourth, either you acquire a wicked spouse and the other lord, because Virgo's got two rulers, one is Rahu and the other one is Mercury. So the Rahu is gone in the 10th. And so that means that he will have all kinds of happiness, self-made wealth, which he has. Prince Charles has done very well with his douchey range organic products and things like that. So there has been, he did make his own wealth and be interested in nurturing wicked females. We don't know that. So I think we will never know.
Donal, the Rahu in the 10th, that shows Diana. She was like a person in her own right. She was like exalted in society.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
That's the Rahu in the 10th, I think, and the moon Rahu in the 10th.
Yeah.
Powerful women, like the Queen Diana,
Yeah.
Camilla. Yeah, powerful women are influencing him.
Yeah, totally. So now let's come to the last of the and the most important, the seventh lord. Okay, this is the Parashara's. See, the guys, the seventh lord is one of the most important. I know we have done this, but this is a very important. We'll quickly wrap it up. If the seventh lord is in the first house, the native will go to others' wives, be wicked, skillful, devoid of courage, and afflicted by phlegmatic diseases. Now, here you have to remember always one thing. If the seventh lord is in Lagna, okay, which is the first house, I have seen it in umpteen number of cases where the person they marry and then the spouse, or if they have a boyfriend, they start to kind of question where they're going. Basically, they sit on your head because Lagna is your head. Literally, they will be like constantly behind your back. They will be following you. They'll be like really wanting to know what is going on with you all the time, every time. So this placement, I don't think it's a great placement to have 10th, 7th Lord in Lagna. And if the seventh lord is in the second, again, I told you this is a great Srimanta yoga. It's a fantastic placement. Look at Prince Charles. He's got it. Here he's got Saturn is the seventh lord and it is in the second house. You can't see it because of the thing, but it is in the second house in Leo. So if the seventh lord is in the second, the nature will have many wives, gain wealth through his wife, be procrastinating in nature. As I said, it's Sri Manta Yoga. They will make huge prosperity after they get married, you know. So of course, you know, he did you know, he did have many wives. Well, he did have two wives, the second one still there. So, but this is very telling, you know, this is very obvious that if somebody's got seventh lord in the second, this is definitely going to happen.
Um,
Yeah.
may I ask you, this Saturn is not in a really bad place, however, because it's in Leo, but still, you know, it did quite well for him. So it doesn't really matter as much that is a Saturn in Leo.
No, but it is in a wrong house. We will come to the Sura and Asura houses because
All right.
the
Okay.
second, yeah, the second, you don't want malefics in the second house. You see, because the second house is a Sura house. That is a very, it's Vishnu. It's to do with our, you know, food we eat, our speech, our, you know, all of that. It's a very, it's the truth about yourself, what you speak, what comes out of your mouth. If you have malefics there, it's a big problem. Okay. And especially Saturn. So it's not welcome there at all. Saturn in the second is not a good placement, you know.
But yeah, but as a seven lord, he did well for
Yeah,
him.
of course. Like I said, this is a Srimanta yoga. It's a
Yeah.
proper yoga,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you can't take away that aspect of it. Yeah.
Okay. So it's everything about relating to the chart, basically, because in theory, Saturn in Leo doesn't do well. But in this specific case, it's doing okay.
Yeah, it is doing okay also because the moon and Rahu are aspecting the moon, especially because it's the Lagna Lord in the 10th is aspecting Saturn, you know. So they are in a yoga. So it is not just yeah, they are in a proper yoga going on. It's in a trine, it's aspecting it, which is very, very positive. You know, is there anything? Mars is also aspecting it. So there is a proper yoga going on with Moon Mars as well, because Mars is Lakshmi Sthan, you know, the ruler of the Lakshmi Sthan. And that is also aspecting the moon. And so is Ketu, Mercury, and Sun. See here, Margarita, see everyone here. Now, the moon, if you take Taurus, it has got two rulers, Venus and moon. Now, Venus and Mercury are in a parivartana, you see, they're in a mutual exchange here, okay? So, if they do exchange, which they have, then that means the sign of um, Libra will aspect Saturn. So, there's a lot of yogas of the 11th
I see.
Lord, second Lord, fourth Lord, Lagna Lord has got involved, and Mars. So you see,
Right.
he's got like half the chart involved in all these yogas. And remember, I told you the great yoga of Kalpavriksha yoga. Remember, I told you the Kalpavriksha. Oops, where's my Kalpavriksha one? Yeah, sorry. The Kalpavriksha, the wish fulfilling tree. If you have the fourth lord, the you know, so that's a beautiful placement. So there you go. So that you have all the fourth lord, the second lord involved, the fourth lord, 11th lord involved, all of them, and including the Lagna lord. You see?
Well, he's a prince, you know.
Yeah,
Well,
of course, indeed, he is a prince. So that's not going to be an ordinary.
exactly.
Yeah, of course. But I'm just showing you that what all yogas are will give you great results.
Yeah.
So
Thank you, Sona.
yeah. So if the seventh lord is in the third, the native will face loss of children, and sometimes with great difficulty there will exist a living son. There is also possibility of birth of a daughter. Now this is a very bold statement by Parashara. Why, I don't know, but we will have to look. Maybe we saw John Travolta's chart last time. I don't know if he had the seventh lord in the third. I think he did, exalted. I'll have to go back to some of the slides, but we will see more of that. Then we have seventh lord in fourth house. The wife of the native will not be under his control. He will be fond of truth, intelligent, religious. He will suffer from dental diseases. So let's see here, Meghan Markle. This is like the elephant in the room, you know. I couldn't resist her chart. Now, there are two charts for her, okay? If you see carefully, one is gives her, now this is your little homework, okay? There are two charts because if there is a minute difference, it's like 2 minutes. The lagna changes from Gemini to Cancer, okay? Just by 2 minutes, okay? So this is your homework for figuring out, using the principles we have learned so far, that where would her seventh lord be, okay? If we take the dictum of this one, if the seventh lord is in the third house, the native will face loss of children, and sometimes with great difficulty there will exist a living son. There's possibility of birth of a daughter. Now that is very dire, okay? I would not wish that on anyone, but here we go. So if that is the case, then her 10th lord, sorry, seventh lord is Saturn, is in um, the third house with moon and a Maranasthana Jupiter. And that is if she's Cancer Lagna, okay? So, any ideas, guys? Come on. Or do you think it's more likely to be Mithuna Lagna, that is Gemini, with Sagittarius, the seventh house, in the fourth house, the Lord of the seventh in the fourth, with Saturn and Moon, you know, all of that. So, which I will leave that to you for you guys to decide. Any ideas? Feel free to unmute yourselves.
Is it Sonal, does the ninth house rule the father in the Vedic system?
Yes.
So because she said, didn't she, the father wasn't invited to the wedding? Was there some issue with the father?
Yeah, he had a cardiac arrest and he was getting treated for that.
Okay. But does she get on with does she get on with the father? I mean,
No, I think she's estranged from the father.
they're estranged. Yeah, they're two. Yeah.
So you see which one is more applicable. Okay, that's you guys, is it's going to be your little homework, okay? I think I will go more with the Gemini. The Gemini sounds much more, you know, proper. Because
In the first chart, Sonal, Jupiter rules the ninth. It's in its fall, isn't it, with Saturn in the third? So
yeah,
that suggests separation from the father. You know.
what do you mean in its fall?
She got also the
Isn't Jupiter in
Sun
its
and
fall in Virgo? Sorry, carry on.
Sun and Rahu in the second. So I think for me it's more Gemini. So Rahu from the second house, so family. Probably. And also Sun and Rahu conjunction, they don't really like each other as much. No, so yeah. For me as well, she more Gemini than a Cancer. Also personality-wise, you know, she's more a Gemini than a Cancerian.
Yeah, she's a good communicator.
Yeah, very good.
So I was looking at, Jupiter in its fall in the second house with Saturn. Wouldn't that, with the moon, wouldn't that indicate family issues, you know, that the ruler of the father...
Sorry, what is in its fall? Jupiter is in Virgo, Saturn is in Virgo, Moon is in Virgo. There is no fall here. Jupiter is in Maranasthana, that is in its dying position in the third house, if we take Cancer rising. But if we take Gemini, then it's in the fourth house, which is beautiful. which explains all her beautiful stuff that she's had so far,
Yep.
you know.
Mm-mm.
I mean, both ways. She's got a very strong, both the lords of the fourth house are in the second. So that's not a problem. But here, the 11th lord is the ninth lord, Saturn is in the fourth. Her father is very much, I mean, her father is decent. I think she's got a lot of misunderstandings going on with the father.
Mm.
I mean, her father was in the film industry, and I think her father was a set designer, an award-winning set designer, and she got into the film industry that way. So her father had some influence,
Yeah.
gave her some help anyway. But they are estranged, so
Yeah. But that's because the Saturn is, see here, the Saturn is in eighth from the own house, you see?
yeah.
Yeah. And the other ruler, Rahu, is in the sixth house from the ninth house, you see? So both the rulers are in the sixth or ninth house, sorry, sixth or eighth placements, which is not a very great placement. So you see, there's a problem there. Yeah.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Yeah, okay. So we get that. So let's just wrap this up. If fifth lord is in the seventh lord is in the fifth, the native will be honorable, endowed with all. That is seven principal virtues, always delighted and endowed with all kinds of wealth. That's a very beautiful yoga, but it will get you to force you to marry for sure. If the seventh lord is in the sixth, this is the biggest problem area here. If the seventh lord in the sixth, the native will beget a sickly wife, will be inimical to her. There will be problems in marriage. He will be given to anger and will be devoid of happiness. And at some point, will have first marriage in trouble for sure. At least one marriage will fail.
I have an example. I have a friend that she's got the seven lord in the six. Actually, every time she gets into a relationship, she always get with a wrong man, and she gets a disease. She's got some kind of disease, a trouble, by being with this person. It's very interesting. So it's very. I have an example of a seven lord in the sixth house.
Yeah. Good, excellent. So that's kind of, we settle that. If seventh lord, this will need real rectification. Often in India, we do like like a marriage to a little tree and things like that. Kumbha Vivaha, sorry, not
Ah,
Kumbha, Tulsi Vivaha, just to get rid of the first, negativity of the first relationship. So if the seventh lord is in the seventh, the nature will be endowed with happiness through wife, be courageous, skillful, intelligent, but only afflicted by windy diseases. So that is also problematic, you know. Then if the seventh lord is in the eighth, so basically the worst placements for seventh lord is the sixth house and the eighth house. You see, that is not welcome at all, because the seventh lord is a very important house, and any afflictions or any problems or going in the eighth or the sixth is the biggest problem. And the 12th, the native will be deprived of mental happiness, his wife will be troubled by diseases, devoid of good disposition, and will not obey the native. And again, this doesn't need any brains, this is a problem. Like I said, seventh lord in the sixth, eighth, and the 12th is a problem. If it is in the 12th, then she will go away, she or he will go away, it'll be a loss. And if the seventh lord is in the ninth, the native will have union with many women, will be well disposed to his own wife, will have many undertakings. Fortune opens up after procuring a guru or a nature of the planet. So here we have Prince Harry here. So as you see, the seventh lord is in the ninth house. Can everybody see that?
mm,
Mercury.
is it? 7 Lord, Mercury in the 9. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So basically, his fortune will open up dealing with younger people, his kids, this, that. So that's very, very positive. That's a beautiful placement. I mean, there's no doubt that he's very, very supportive. He's got a great, relationship with her. Whether what happens later is hard to say, but one thing is guaranteed that there is a lot of positiveness.
Mm.
Yeah. So now, if the seventh lord is in the 10th, the native will beget a disobedient wife, will be religious, endowed with wealth, sons, etc. So that is also a very good placement. This is Camilla Parker, Leo rising with the seventh lord Rahu in the 10th house. And the other seventh lord is Saturn. Remember what I said, that if there are two lords Aquarius has got. So one lord has gone in the 12th house. So her first marriage was over, finito. But her second marriage with Charles, Prince Charles, is fantastic. With, it's Rahu is exalted. So that's very, very positive, you see. And will beget a disobedient wife. I don't know. Is her husband disobedient? I don't know. Hard to say. If the seventh lord is in the 11th, the native will gain wealth through his wife, be endowed with less happiness from sons, and will have daughters. Okay, so that's the sons and the daughters story. So more happiness through daughters. And if the seventh lord is in the 12th, the native will incur penury, be a miser, be his livelihood will be related to clothes, his wife will be a spendthrift. So the seventh lord in the 12th is a big problem. Okay, the Karaka is Shani, so that's when you have to pay your dues to Shani. This is like because it's the 12th house. So that's it. We wrap up. So, but bear in mind that it's not impossible that the 12th lord, sorry, the seventh lord in 6, 8, and 12 is the biggest problems. And for that, you need a remedy. No doubt about that. 100% guaranteed. You need to rectify, various, there are, you have to make the Karaka of Shani quite strong. By, we have various mantras, various maybe gemstones, depending on what can be done. But there is a fundamental issue if the seventh lord goes in the 6th, 8th, or 12th. Those are the worst placements. Absolutely, no doubt about that. Is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, lovely.
I missed the ruler of the 3rd and the 5th.
Ruler of the 3rd in the 5th.
Right.
Yeah, they have a formidable and a very strong partner, but it's a very good placement, because you see from the 3rd house, um, from the 3rd house, it's the 5th house is the 3rd from the 3rd house. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Yeah. Is
Mhm.
that, who's that? Is that
Oh,
Osama?
this is Elizabeth.
Yes. Hi, Elizabeth.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So does that, this is called the concept of Bhavat Bhavam. We have been doing this quite a lot where, we often see like the 3rd house, like any connection will have between the 3rd lord and the 5th lord, is a 5th house is very positive
oh,
because it is the 3rd from the 3rd house. So
oh, okay.
so it will have a say in the matters of the 5th house, you see.
Mhm.
So the 3rd house is all about like having fun and entertainment, and and so the 5th house, if you are like creatively inclined, or if you have children and if you want to improve the significations of the 5th house, then what you need to do is bring in an element of entertainment and fun and games, which is the 3rd house, you see.
Mhm.
So they both are very intricately connected. Yeah.
Great, great, thank you. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I had that placement. It's true.
It is okay. Superb, superb. So anyway, we have now the next session is on pandemics with what's the name? I think, let me see if any.
Santiago.
Yes, sorry, thank you. With Santiago Mantis. And I'm doing on decanates, all the degrees of the zodiac, and what the placements are. So that's going to be quite full on. So do feel free to join, and thank you very much. And
Thank you, Sona. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
and I'll
much.
see you
Thank you.
later.
Have a nice
Thank
evening.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
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 Bye.